describing what I see is really important, not just kind of writing the bare bones. And so this story is really an exciting story to picture, kids running through the creek and emptying boots of creek water before going back to their classroom in the middle of the woods, which is actually, it is a clearing, like a fort they've made in the middle of the woods. The teacher has kind of ribbons she sets up around the trees where it's their boundaries, so kind of stay within this room. But the day I spent there, the kids had a ton of autonomy and decision making, as this kindergarten really is like it sounds. It's a forest kindergarten placed outdoors, weather permitting, of course. That's really letting kids learn, I think, more than just math and spelling, is really how they describe it. Like, how do you learn resilience, and how do you learn about science by being outside? I remember kindergarten and memorizing what butterflies were what and kind of how that chain happened. But for these kids, they're outside actually catching butterflies and then releasing them and watching caterpillars as they change. And so it really is taking a kinesthetic, a hands-on approach to education that for here in Hamilton County, and I think through most of the country, has been lost. The phrase kill and drill. You kids sit in desks and, you keep working till you memorize it. Whereas, what is the value in kids learning, one, social skills, which I think is a huge part of schools, developing citizens, but also just curiosity and wonder and the ability to maybe process differently than just regurgitating information, but really asking questions and then finding the answers. Is this right for all schools, or is this the option for everybody? No. What happened here is that this principal realized they had a ton of land behind their school and saw this opportunity because she had a teacher that was trained in outdoor education. So it was kind of like this all came together at once, that for years this teacher had been saying, let me try this. I really think we can get a lot of families interested in this. I think we have the space for it, things like that. And then the principal taking the risk and saying, okay, I think we might have some parents interested. They actually had so many interested that they had to do a lottery because not everybody could get in, which I think also shows you have to have a community that wants to do this, and you have to have the right space. And here in Chattanooga, we have a pretty temperate climate for the most part. The cold months are coming, but a majority of the year you can comfortably be outside. So a lot of those factors kind of had to come in together. This is not an urban school. It's a little more suburban, so you have space to do things like this. So it was a lot of factors kind of all coming at once. Like you said, not everywhere can have a garden. It's really, I think what I learned the most from this as an education reporter is how this principal having the option to choose what she thought was good for her school seems to be really paying off. And again, not being totally prescriptive in what happens, but having a little bit, being more nimble in what direction to go, I think right now seems to really be benefiting that whole school and especially that class.
Well, that's a great post. I like it. Sounds like something that could be interesting.
This is awesome. It's awesome that that's being done. And I am curious to know if there's anything like that around me. If I ever have kids, I would love for them to have that experience.
Oh, that is so cool. I love that idea. In fact, that is something that I have thought about for years since I was in school. And now that I am going to be a teacher here shortly, I think it's a phenomenal idea, specifically for science and nature classes, to apply the knowledge that they gained in textbooks and go and do hands-on work outside. That's great. But even just for any kind of class, to have part of it outside is refreshing, because kids tend to get bored. The classroom's stuffy and teachers droning on, and tend to fall asleep or get bored or start thinking about other things or whatever. And so maybe having the class outside and doing some applied knowledge would really wake them up and be refreshing.
I think it's a great idea. I always wanted to do something like that, especially during the subject of science. You're explaining to them about how certain plants and get their colors and things like that. And then if they're outside, they can actually see that, search for different leaves or different types of plants, life, and different things that's outside as far as nature is concerned. Being in the city, I don't think it would, I don't know if it could work in a city setting. Um, if they had the space or whatever for them to be able to do that, you know, uh, outdoor classrooms, weather permitting and stuff like that. I don't see why it shouldn't be able to be implemented and could work for a city school. Suburban school, yes, like it was described here. They have a lot of wide open space and stuff like that, so that would work. And I'm sure those children really benefited from that type of learning, sort of hands-on outdoor learning. I don't see why it shouldn't be able to be implemented in a city dwelling. You know, I would be all for it.
I really like the idea for this, and I'm really glad that this worked for this school, and I think it's an awesome thing. I don't think this would be a good idea for the school that I'm doing my practicums and my student teaching in right now. I live in Indiana, and the weather is constantly changing, and so we're about to get into our cold season where there's going to be lots of snow on the ground, and it's going to be really cold. And then I know in the spring and fall are some good days, but also, I mean, there are a lot of days where children have really severe allergies to pollen and things like that, and so that it wouldn't be good for them to be out there all day, every day with their allergies and such. And also in the summers, towards the end of the school year and towards the beginning of the school year, things get really, really hot, to where it's almost, they have heat advisories and things like that where you're not supposed to be outside for extended periods of time. But I do think that students need to have more class outside. I think that they need to do more of their science lessons outside where they can actually observe, the sun, or they can even just go onto the playground and learn about pendulums with the swings, or learning about different plants and different animals or birds that are native to where you live, just different things like that. I think that those are good, or even just have them do their silent reading outside every once in a while, just for a change of scenery. A lot of kids like being outside. But yeah, I definitely think that schools need to have more outside education. But for us, building a little hut outside to do our schooling, and my first graders, our classroom is right by the door, so it would be almost just as easy for them just to walk out the front door of the school, to go out by the playground and by a little grassy area and such. So I don't really think it's necessary to build some sort of structure where they sit outside all day, especially because the weather is only going to be good for that part of the year. Maybe, I don't know, out of the whole entire school year, maybe a month, maybe two. But yeah, I definitely like the ideas in this article, and I think that when I'm a teacher at the end of this and when I'm doing my student teaching next semester, I'll definitely try and do some lessons outside, just because I know kids really enjoy being outside and they enjoy a change of scenery, rather than just sitting in their desks all day and being in the same place all day. And it really, especially in the younger grades, it really connects a lot because we talk about my school, my community, so that really fits in well. So, yeah, thanks for sharing this article.
Hey, Kendi, this is Stephen in Tennessee. Oh, yeah, I totally agree. I think that, yeah, that would be yeah, that would definitely be awesome. I remember even here, when I was probably in the seventh grade, I was I was at Tennessee School for the Blind in Nashville, and one day our science teacher did take us outside, and I don't know what we actually did, but we learned about something, or she let us see something outside, so it was neat. But I also think not only that, but yeah, I like the idea of the outdoor classroom. It kind of gives kids a way to just learn about the environment, kind of learn about the wilderness and things like that, and also recess. That's another key thing that I think kids should be able to do. I hope they still have that around. I'd heard they took it out of school, but I don't know if they brought it back. I know they had it when I was in school. But no, I think it'd be a great idea, and maybe teach them more. Like, let's say they're learning a spelling word. All right, let's say it's you've got kids that maybe have never seen whatever word you're trying to spell, so you can give them an example. Like if you've got, say, a kindergartner who's never seen a flower. All right, so you're spelling out the word. You're trying to teach them the word. Okay, they're not going to know what a flower is, so you say, okay, you go over to a flower and you pick up a flower, or you take them over to some flowers and you say, okay, this is what a flower is, and then you explain how they're planted, and or how you would plant the flower and things like that, and then you would spell it out to them, and things like that. Yeah, I think that would be it would give them more of a better understanding of what something means, or an example of something.
I think this would be wonderful for children. Wish my childhood was like this. I mean, sure, I did have a biology class in which we went outside and identified different tree leaves and whatnot. But being outside, for school, to get a hands-on experience, especially for a kindergartner, that is just great. It's just an awesome idea. And they can, actually learn more, and and yes, be outdoors and experience it for themselves.
I think that would be great, especially for those kids who are raised in city boundaries where they never really get a chance to see what the forest is like. I myself spent summers with family members out in the Ozarks, and have a love for the country and being outdoors, and being able to run as far as you could run without getting in outside the boundaries of the property. So I think that is great. My husband and I still now have done 11 consecutive annual hay rides for friends and family to come out to our property that we now own, and we have a John Deere A restored tractor, and do a hay ride, and we have a bonfire and have s'mores and hot dogs and chips and things like that, for everyone to be together and to be able to have that experience. And we do that all ourselves, and they just come out for the day. And now it's gotten to be where about 20 people now will spend the night with us, when it all just started out as an evening together with friends. So I think that's great for kids to be out in the woods, in the wilderness. 19%.
I think this is a really great concept. I watched a video a while back about Sweden, and even there, which does get very cold and everything, even during the winter time, some of the children are outside and enjoying the outside nature, and that's sort of how they learn. They don't have this drill thing that you mentioned, sitting at a desk and just memorizing things. They actually interact with their environment, and it gives them more respect of the environment too. But I think from a health perspective as well, I mean, we have people with vitamin D deficiencies, and I don't think that synthetic vitamin D is as great as actual vitamin D that you get from the sun. But also, I mean, there's so many studies that find that, if there's adequate trees in your home or on your property at your home, which would probably be the case here in the school, I mean, there's a lot of really great benefits that way. And having, a garden or something to play outside, and just, I don't know, it's just such a wonderful experience to be outdoors, and you benefit so much from doing so. And I think it also gives the kids, especially that age group, the kind of time to run around. I know when my son was in school in kindergarten, first grade in Norfolk, Virginia, they didn't really go outside much at all, except for recess and stuff like that. But even then, that time is very restricted. But one thing that the teacher allowed, which I would assume would be allowed here in this instance as well, is she would allow the children to go to the gym to run around a few laps if they started to kind of get anxious in their seats. So I think that there would be multiple things that would be beneficial by having things outdoors.
Fantastic idea. I mean, you mentioned some of the science, how kids can learn science, learning that kind of thing, classroom learning, actually learning about nature, and having a little bit of autonomy and socializing and that kind of thing. All of those are, very, very good assets to having a classroom outside. But also, in addition, yeah, I'm on a bus. But in addition, we can't forget the healing qualities of nature. I was once in a child education class, and they talked about a boy who had just lost his I believe it was his father, and the only way he could survive the class, he would start to go to class at the beginning of class. He would to find out what the instruction was, and then he'd go out in the garden, and he'd feel the healing power of nature in the garden, and that's how he recovered, how he was able to grieve through his loss. So yeah, there's a lot of positive things, and also about the in an environment when kids can experiment and learn that way. I've heard about a school up in Northern California where the kids could go around barefoot, and they could learn whatever they wanted to.
Stop requested if possible.
And that kind of thing. So I think that does nothing but help the kids. Now there are some kids that benefit most from being in the classroom, and learning from books and all that. So they might not benefit as much as those who are into the hands-on. But I think it's a great idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. I wish every school district would have at least one school like that. Now, granted, they now have online schools, which you can work at your own pace, and that, if they had a program where they can incorporate outside adventures to that would be great too. So, yeah, it's a neat idea. Thanks for putting it out here.
I think this is a brilliant idea. Just being out in nature and for the kids to learn on hand, not just through textbooks or, through someone telling you. You can actually be out, if you're learning about science or nature, you can actually be outside and actually see the nature, not just hear about it or wonder about it. I think that's a great idea. And it could help a lot of people with focusing better on school and being more interested in learning, because there are a lot of people that are called visual learners, where you have to, it's better for you to read or see what you're learning about rather than someone telling you about it. And I really think that being outdoors in nature and giving kids opportunity to learn in an environment like that is really, really beneficial. I think, it's a great idea, and it could really stimulate a lot of people to learn more. And yeah, I just find that really awesome. It's a really, really awesome idea.